so many women have a similar story to yours, right? They have history of kind of lifelong period pain, endometriosis, period issues, pelvic pain, painful sex, trauma, medical trauma, not being believed, gaslit, that by the time they come to you in your practice, having that skillful way of holding space so that we're helping their nervous system know that they're just safe even in your presence makes such a huge difference. I think that's the thing I'm most excited about for all of our graduates. Hi, and welcome back to the Integrative Women's Health Podcast. I'm so excited to be here today with Carley McConkey of Carley Nadine. That is her practice name. She is an herbalist who joined our perimenopause and menopause program to begin to really specialize in that population because there is such a massive need. So, welcome, Carley. What got you excited about the work that you're doing now and inspired this transition?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So, I would say that my story would be that I've always been passionate about women's health. And mostly, I would say because of my own struggles, like a lot of practitioners can, start off by saying. And it started when I was young. I would say I was put on birth control at a very young age. So, before my first period. And that happened to treat primary amenorrhea. And for those of your listeners that don't know what that is, it's when you don't get your period by the time you're, 15 or 16. And so I was diagnosed with that. And so I was on birth control before I even got a period until I was in my 30s. So I didn't each actually have a full cycle until then. And then, yeah, I was very much dismissed from doctors in my early years. I had incredibly painful sex, which was very traumatic in and of itself. Chronic yeast infections, disordered eating, like all of those kind of things. So a lot of unprocessed trauma, so to speak. And I didn't really even learn until about the 4 phases of the cycle until I was in my 30s, which looking back now is so wild. Was before the internet and before all this amazing information was wildly available. I definitely didn't know any of that. So I just thought it was the bleed and that was it. And then I would say that it really did push me to learn more about women's health, nutrition, herbal medicine, not just to support myself and empower myself because I really wasn't getting the answers that I needed, but I also really I had a deep passion to help other women feel seen and heard and empowered to be able to make, educated decisions and empowered around their health. So I then became a certified holistic nutritionist and then a clinical herbalist, which I just got registered last year, which is really exciting. And then I got a bunch of certifications with coaching because I recognized how important holding space was. And so from a trauma-informed place, so educating with that. And then I also got a women's health coaching certificate from IIN. I studied with Nicole Jordan, and then I entered your amazing realm of the Integrative Women's Health Institute once I really recognized that I wanted to specialize in perimenopause to help women with clarity, confidence, and have a trauma-informed approach that doesn't necessarily have to be, just natural or just allopathic. I really want to educate and empower women to make an informed decision that can be here. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And I think that's what I've really tried to do with this program is bring together the fact that we have all of these tools. We have nutrition tools, we have supplement and herbal medicine tools, we have exercise, sleep, mindfulness, nervous system regulation, hormones, peptides. And I think, I say this all the time, but I'm so excited that we're sort of the first generation of adult midlife women and adult older women beyond 60 who can really make our own decisions fully.
Absolutely.
And so I want to empower women with all of those tools. So if you think about your clients, what are some of their goals? What are they excited about? And where do they tend to feel stuck when they come to see you?
Great question. So I would say that I feel like there's a shift where women are really recognizing that they do have more, they have more power over their health than they ever thought possible. I think, I mean, I can't speak to generations before, but it was very much like you saw your doctor and they knew everything. And I think now with all this information and, things like bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, there are so many things now to empower women. So I think that women are coming to me really curious about ways that they can support themselves. I do have a lot of women that, you know, are very proficient with health, so to speak, I guess, maybe almost too much information. And then some women that aren't as much. So excited that they can support themselves and very motivated. With that being said, I do find that a lot of, because of the society that we live in, the world we do live in, very much like a pill for every ill sort of mindset. I think folks, a lot of women want results immediately, and we live in that kind of world. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. So I would say that really just being clear about expectations, and I would say, like, yeah, just really honing in on that empowerment part, that they do have control. However, it's not going to be something that's overnight. It's not just going to be a quick fix, a quick pill. That comes with herbal medicine, that comes with nutrition, and that comes with lifestyle and nervous system support, most importantly.
So true. And I think even though women, who doesn't want the quick fix? Like everyone wants to just solve their problem faster with a very simple solution. And I do think this is why hormone replacement therapy, now that we have the data that it's safe and effective, is a very valuable tool. That's why some of the peptides are valuable tools. That's why some of the supplements and herbs are valuable tools, is that they can kind of level up, like give you a little bit of a quicker return in certain parts of the struggle. But it's, again, as you said, it's not going to solve the whole problem. So it sounds like what you're really offering, because of this coaching model that we frame everything within, is the space for women to, because it's like a quick fix to what? So first we have to determine the goal. So if you think about your clients in your practice, when they really slow down and take a moment to get excited about their goals, how do they feel? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I would say some are really motivated, and it really does depend on an individual. Everyone is so unique. I could have two women on paper that look identical in terms of their symptoms, in terms of, their diagnosis, what have you. And then when I actually sit with them in a coaching setting where it's one-on-one holding space, it couldn't be more different. And so I think that that's something I've learned, and something that I think is pulling away from that, sometimes that functional medicine model, which can be quite allopathic, where it's like, let's give someone a protocol based on their symptoms and their diagnosis. But being a holistic practitioner, and I will die on this hill, holistic is very much based on the individual, which I think being in that coaching session with someone really does allow that. So, yeah, I would say that everybody's completely different. And that also goes with how I work with a client as well. So, some clients might be more open to working with certain herbs, which very much have very strong energetics properties to them. Whereas some folks might be more inclined to want to do more nervous system work, and they don't really want to take herbs or supplements. And so we're going to work on, little things that they can do every day that's going to help them feel better. So, yeah, I would say that everybody is really, really different in terms of what their goals are. Yeah, and I don't really find that out until we're sitting together. And yeah, some can be very resistant, and then others can be, so on board and they get results right away. So it really honestly depends on the individual.
Well, and I think you mentioned that, here at IWHI, we care a lot about that sort of trauma informed lens, because so many women have a similar story to yours, right? They have history of kind of lifelong period pain, endometriosis, period issues, pelvic pain, painful sex, trauma, medical trauma, not being believed, gaslit, that by the time they come to you in your practice, that having that skillful way of holding space so that we're helping their nervous system know that they're just safe even in your presence, makes such a huge difference. I think that's the thing I'm most excited about for all of our graduates, because you are such a rare practitioner in the medical system, because the vast majority of people in the system, even if they want to practice in this way, they can't. They have such limited amount of time. And by the time women come to see us, they've been to their gynecologist, they may have been referred to specialists, but each of those people has only seen them for 5 to 10 minutes. You've been using a trauma informed coaching model for a while. If you think about any aha moments or stories where you really felt like, this is why I do this, does anything come to mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few cases, but one in particular was someone that I worked with. And in the past, and I've shared this with you before in one of our sessions, where if someone wasn't getting results, I would really put it on myself. I would very much make it about myself, where I've failed this person. I get really upset and discouraged. And I mean, that is definitely something that I worked on and have shifted so much by working on nervous system support for myself and to be able to actually hold space for my clients. But one story in particular was this one woman that I worked with, and she was my ideal client. When I think of an ideal client, it is this woman. She was just really receptive to a lot of the nervous system work. And she'd done, had taken all the supplements, done all the things. And I really use this as a opportunity for me to really coach and hold space for somebody. And so we did, and she shared a lot with me. I held space. I didn't try to fix this person. And we really put into place some things that she could do. She was a teacher. She was coming home, really dealt with a lot of anxiety. And I did see as a mirror quite a few things in myself, my past self in her. And we implemented some nervous system work. And I remember this point where we had a session and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to be so proud of me. I came home. I was so anxious and I was a wreck. And I thought, I heard your voice in my head. I said, okay, stop. Just go and take 10 minutes and sit down and just like breathe." And so she started doing that. She started going into a room, and before she got activated or perhaps, disassociated by like turning on the TV or scrolling or what have you of humans and how we disassociate, yeah, she started implementing these things and actually doing it. And I was so impressed. And she felt like it truly changed her, the way that she was dealing with things and the way that she could show up in her household as a teacher. And yeah, it was really amazing to see that. And so that's kind of a long answer, but I would say once I started really implementing the actual coaching and just holding space, and instead of just trying to throw solutions at my clients of like, do this, do this, do this, here's another herb, here's another adaptogen. Instead, I just stopped and was like, held space, listened to my client, and actually implemented things together. We did a co creation of being able to create something that worked for her, that would actually reduce this anxiety. And it really worked. And I remember our final call, she sent me this really lovely um, message that just said, in short, like, "You changed my life," which I think is a little extra. I remember feeling like, "Oh my gosh, I'm an imposter. Like, this isn't true at all." But it was such a lovely message that she sent me. And I think that that moment, I really did feel aligned with, yes, this is the work I want to do. It's not sexy all the time. It can be very uncomfortable, and it can be very challenging holding space as a practitioner for people. And I went to school for nutrition and herbalism, and I didn't think that I would be coaching or holding space. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And that's what people need.
It's so true. My original clinical training is in physical therapy, and then I got a doctorate in nutrition. And most of our students have some kind of license or certification. They're nurses, they're PTs, OTs, PAs, physicians, nutritionists, mental health professionals, acupuncturists. So they have like this clinical skill set. And our clinical or like fitness coaching skill set is all about telling people what to do. And you're also kind of trained in your program or graduate program to as you said, like it's your job to quote unquote fix them. So, one of the things that I'm always helping people to unlearn is that mindset. But there's that moment that you kind of alluded to where it's a little scary for you. And I certainly went through this too as I evolved my practice like almost 20 years ago now, where you really have to be patient with the person, slowing down, opening it up, trusting you enough, letting them try and fail and learn from their experiences, and not just piling them on with more stuff to do, and letting them feel, as you said, that discomfort of like, okay, I want to grab my phone, or I want to grab a donut, or I want to grab a glass of alcohol, or I want to start yelling at my family, whatever it is that we use to kind of calm the nervous system in the moment. They have to notice that sensation and then make a decision, have a little space. And so, in that messy part, you said it's not always sexy. You yourself have really had to grow. And one of the things I've really seen in our work together, I'd love for you to just talk about like, do you like that part of our program where we show up live every week and you're like, okay, this is uncomfortable? Tell me a little bit about what that experience is for you, because I'm sure it's hard to come to those live calls where I'm coaching you on how to be more uncomfortable.
Yeah, great question. And so it's interesting, actually, when I signed up, I think I went in with the mindset that I need to learn more. I need to learn everything there is to know about perimenopause and everything there is to know about, hormone replacement therapy and all the education sort of thing. So I kind of overlooked that part of it. And I'll say that being in the program, that this is the thing that I've been finding I've enjoyed the most. I mean, I loved the program, but the coaching and the accountability, and I've showed up for almost all the calls. And like you said, it is uncomfortable. Sometimes, you have in a very, of course, calm and great way, but you're really good at holding up mirrors and asking questions and really helping us hold space. And it can be very uncomfortable. And there's been many times where we've got off calls where either I've shared or I've just listened in on other practitioners' experiences, which is so valuable in and of itself, which is something we overlook. And I often think about it afterwards. I allow it to like process, and it comes up afterwards, it was unexpected. So yeah, it can be uncomfortable, but I'll say that I leave the calls feeling pretty motivated, actually. And it just really does hit home of how important the coaching aspect is.
Yeah. Well, there is so much to sort of unlearn from our other trainings. But then I think what's so lucky is in those groups. I mean, we've been working with people who've been in our community since 2016, no, 2006. So the other people on the call, as you said, it's a group coaching call. It's such a safe space for all of us to grow. And that's always very often the leading edge. It's like, oh, how do I hold space for people who are like, are they going to be mad at me, or are they going to blame me? And they won't, when you really get skilled at this and having that safe space to practice. Because everyone on the call is always like so supportive and, so helpful. And we learn from each other.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I'll add as well is I think that, I've been in courses, I've been on live calls within courses, which help answer questions. But I think the coaching in particular is really, really valuable, and where this is kind of different than anything else I've experienced, where I can come to a call where I have an issue, not with a complex case, but maybe something very specific to coaching, where it may be personally something is coming up for me. Like I mentioned before, how maybe sometimes I can be really hard on myself, that I'm, as a practitioner, I don't know enough, or I failed them, or maybe very specifically, like not knowing how to answer a specific coaching question, and like, well, what coaching questions should I ask? And so that is very valuable as well, is being able to actually use very specific questions and in a group of how to support this particular client. or something that might be coming up for me. So yeah, it's pretty helpful.
That's great to hear, really. And so you did mention that we do work through the hard part of coaching, but which I actually think once we get good at it makes our job so much easier because you're not constantly trying to fix people. Like they really do start doing exactly what your client said. Like, you've changed my life. I now know how to do this for myself. That's a depth of empowerment that's really different from being like, let me look at your functional labs and give you a protocol. And again, it's not to say that that's not valuable to help along the process, but the process is really what we were just talking about. So there is, however, education in
Yes, which is so important.
perimenopause and menopause and the nutrition and lifestyle and HRT and all of the cool stuff. Is there anything that stands out in the education that you were excited about, surprised by, learned,
Yes.
what can you say about that?
Yeah. So I would say that I would think the thing that stood out the most for me, I have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to herbal medicine, supplements, functional medicine testing, nutrition. And I liked doing that part as well because it's always really lovely to see like from someone else who's very educated in that world to also solidify things that I already know, but add little pearls, clinical pearls as well, leading on to topics that I already know about, which I love. But what I really loved was the very in-depth knowledge around bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and hormone replacement therapy in general. I would say for me, that was like exceeded my expectations from, all of the all the information that you had and you presented, but all of the voices that you hosted as well. So for those of you that don't know, there is, I think, over like 10 interviews with everyone from nutrition professionals to doctors that are like ahead in their field, really giving male, female, and everyone in between, giving information and their opinions, professional and personal, on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and hormone replacement therapy as well. So I found that really exceeded my expectations. And after finishing the program, I feel so much more equipped to be able to answer questions and really be able to empower my clients. Like I don't have a license, so I will not be prescribing anything. However, being able to empower my clients of what they can look for, who they can talk to, what the differences are, and all of those kind of things, and having those the scientific back studies and voices from people that are really well respected in their field. So that, and then another thing that I found to be incredibly insightful and which I loved was talking a lot about histamine reactions and long COVID and its relation uh, to perimenopause, fluctuating hormones, just a lot of like again clinical pearls in which I never really connected the dots before, and there was some things that you didn't necessarily go like super in depth with, or give us these very specific protocols, but I'm a very curious person and I love research and I love that. So I found that it was a great entryway to pique my curiosity and make that connection in which I never had before. I'm like, oh my God, like aha moment. And so now, yeah, I've been doing a ton more research and yeah, it's really opened a whole new world for me in that respect. So yeah, I'm sure there's many other things, but off the top of my head, those are them.
Well, and get excited because I'm working on the protocols now, which you will get very
Amazing. I'm
soon.
excited.
Very soon. Because I do think there is that little bit of a missing piece in a lot of perimenopause and menopause education around overlap between perimenopause, menopause, and chronic illness. So many people have mast cell activation syndrome or other histamine issues, POTS, dysautonomia, endometriosis, period pain, painful sex, like that predated the perimenopause. Like it wasn't just perimenopause or perimenopause flared it or it happened at the same time as perimenopause. I think that's a huge hole in what any other perimenopause and menopause education offers. So we're going to go even deeper with that. So I'll share that with you after this conversation.
Amazing.
But
Very excited.
yeah. And one of the things about why I invited so many prescribing professionals to talk about the research around hormone therapies and bioidentical hormone therapies and how they are similar, how they are different, is because, I do think if you're going to be a specialist in any area, you're going to be the perimenopause, menopause expert in your area, in your community. You should learn it from multiple people who are actually practicing.
Absolutely.
Who have worked with hundreds to thousands of cases. And we all really do have clinical pearls and clinical wisdom to share. I mean, the three-legged stool of evidence-based medicine is peer-reviewed literature, clinical practice experience, and that individual client or patient's experience. So I'm glad that that was really insightful for you, because I think that sometimes when people are choosing where and how to do training, they don't think that actually you should maybe do multiple trainings. So even if you've already done someone else's coaching training or someone else's nutrition training or someone else's even perimenopause training, you're going to learn a lot here because we see things through a different lens.
Absolutely. And I think that as whatever field, in whatever area you're in the health world, whether that be, a nutritionist, herbalist, physiotherapist, doctor, naturopath, I think that it's important to constantly be learning and unlearning, if you will. Um, and because things change all the time, new research comes out. My mind has changed, and the way that I perceive and how I work with clients has shifted, so much over the 10 years that I've been in this world and in the health world. And yeah, I think it's really, really important to learn from different voices, learn from different people, nervous system, energetics, even traditional and allopathic. So yeah, I think it's really, really important.
And I think what you just said about you being flexible and open to that evolution is the sign of a really skilled expert, a really skilled coach, clinician, because it's people who stay kind of rigidly unflexible with beliefs rather than evolving wisdom or evolving research, science, evolving experience, evolving just better listening to their clients. They stay stuck, where, it's the growth mindset, I think, is really, really important. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. If someone wants to reach out and get your really skillful mindful listening and holding space in their case, because you really are such a strong clinician and coach, because I really think you have developed and practiced those skills in particular, and you keep learning and you keep challenging yourself. So if someone wants that honor to be in your presence and work with you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Carley Nadine _. I have so many recipes and herbal tips and so many things on there. And in October, I'm actually going to be launching my program and my in-depth clinical practice of working with me one-on-one. And it's going to be very much dedicated to serving women in perimenopause, so 35 to 55, if you will, in that transition season of their life. So, yeah, October will be when I'm launching that. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, otherwise, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, and I'd love to connect.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, Carley. Thank you for your work and your dedication and your constant growth mindset and just your wonderful presence on our group calls. We love having you in our community, and I encourage everyone to reach out and follow Carley and learn from her and just get that be in her presence. There's something really magical about that. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica.